Welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Ultimate 180 podcast. If you have ever felt exhausted, overwhelmed, or trapped in your own life and wish you had a complete life makeover, then you're in the perfect place to learn how to pull an ultimate 180 and change your life beyond all expectations. I am your host, Christina Walker, and today we're talking about money. I have a very special guest with me who is wildly entertaining, smart, funny, uplifting, and absolute joy to be around. She's also a money guru. She has authored 3 best-selling books, including The Wealthy Spirit, my favorite, and she has won multiple women in business awards. She's a renowned public speaker. She's even been featured in Jack Canfield books, as well as other authors. And she also helps people change their money mindset with her financial stress reduction workshops and her highly interactive Wealthy Spirit group coaching program. It's amazing. The lovely and multi-talented Miss Chellie Campbell is here with us to share some of her money wisdom and how she completely changed her life, going from a musical comedy actress to the incredibly successful wealth coach and entrepreneur that she is today. So stay tuned for this high energy, informative show, and let's get started as we navigate change together, 1 degree at a time. Let's do this. Welcome, Chellie.
Yay, thank you for having me. This is so great.
I'm so excited to have you here. I can't even tell you. I could literally list all of your accolades and it would take up the entire show. You are just such an amazing inspiration to so many people out there. You really, really are. I hope you know that.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. There's a wonderful quote that I heard from Rabindranath Tagore. I hope I'm saying it right. He said, I keep this right by my desk because I love it so much. He said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy.
I just got the chills. I love
I know
that.
it gets me teary every time I read it because
That's amazing. I
it
love
is
it.
so joyful. When
It
you help
is.
somebody and they go, oh my God, it's like you give them the favorite thing that they've always wanted for Christmas or their birthday, and they go, oh my God, this is so great. Don't you feel so good?
Yeah,
Every time
I
you help
do.
somebody, it's
Well,
that.
I'm about to give you a Christmas present then.
Okay.
Okay, because I have to tell listeners. So I was one of your students many years ago. I think we have known each other for almost 20 years, which is super weird to say.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. And I'm not going to give away all the secrets of this exercise that you had us do, but it is definitely in your workshop and probably in your coaching program. But part of it was we had to take a list on a piece of paper because it's very important to write with your hand.
Yeah.
And we had to write down, like, if we had everything we wanted to do in a month, like everything we had, the things that we were doing, and write them down and how much it would cost, right? So I'm going to get my nails done every month. I'm going to go to the med spa and how much that would cost. And write down like your dream life. Like, what would that be? Just go crazy and write down how much it costs. And then at the end, you tally it up and you see how much, right? And then there's a bunch of things that go after that of how to achieve it. But what's super cool is you put that away. And I found mine the other day, and you're not going to believe it, but I do everything on the list. Isn't that cool?
I love that. And it doesn't surprise me at all because that's the secret. When you bring it into the universe by writing it down, you bring it from the mental and the non-physical into the physical. That's why it's important to not just think about your affirmations, but say positive things to yourself out loud every day or write them, or some people like to record them and listen to them, but it has to be physically active somehow. Because when you do that, when you do put all of that stuff together and you really do visualize what you want and you've made it physical by writing it down, your spirit goes to work on it.
Yeah.
And it's working on it all the time, whether you're sleeping or resting or having fun or dancing or singing or whatever, working. It's
Right. I like to
always
call it
doing.
our radar, like our,
Yeah.
right? We've got like a radar going on, and it's constantly working in the background,
Yeah.
right? And it just
Yeah.
like we don't even realize it sometimes.
We get to trust that it's all happening for our perfect good.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
it works.
it does. And now, this doesn't mean I'm not all airy fairy about the whole thing, saying, oh, you just go, oh, I'm making lots of money and money just rains down on you. No, there's some stuff you got to do too in the physical world in order to have physical money instead of just mental money.
Right. You
So
have a very practical side. I think that's why
I do.
it's so effective is that you incorporate everything from the practical world that we know as real, right?
Yeah.
Into more of a, I don't know if you want to say woo woo, but even just a spiritual, mental, soulful way, the other side, and just you merge it.
That I think is the thing that uh, for me works the best and makes me a little different because there's lots of woo woo, airy fairy, metaphysical people, and I really embrace that side. But I'm not totally that because I know I got to have some money to pay the bills in the physical world. And I saw too many, the biggest thing I saw was that the wealthy people had no spirit and the spiritual people were all broke. I mean, look at it. It's like I couldn't go network in the metaphysical community because they didn't have any money. They
Right.
couldn't afford my program. So, I was trying to put together payment plans and then they can't come up with the payment that month. I don't want to have that.
Well, and I find that interesting. So because you actually come from a world of the money, right? Your bookkeeping background, you've had a
Right.
business in that area. So I love that you have this perspective that, and you can incorporate the other side of it because you're right. I mean, you don't want to attract a bunch of customers that don't have the money. They might be wonderful to be around,
Oh,
but that
yes.
doesn't
And
make a great customer, right?
right. You got to have a customer with money. That's why a lot of people work with accountants and attorneys. Attorneys are wonderful customers because they have the money.
Right,
So
right.
it's
And
just,
so I think the big question, just to start us off,
mhm.
is I mean, do you remember a time when you discovered that like really to change your money situation that you had to incorporate not only these, kind of tried and true real world aspects and then to tie in this mental spiritual kind of thing? Was there like a time in your life that really clicked for you so that you can make this happen?
I've had like three different lifetimes, I would say.
I think more.
Maybe, well, in this life,
Right,
there's
true.
three different specific things. So the first dream and the goal was to be singing and dancing for a living. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to be an actress, and I did school plays, and then I went to UC Santa Barbara. I was a classmate of Michael Douglas. We did a show together. Then I came to Hollywood to be a star. Anybody recognize me? No, this did not happen. One time I asked that question in a room full I was speaking to, and a hand shot up in the back and said, I do, I recognize you. I said, thanks, Mom.
Oh,
But, I did work, which was great. I didn't get into films or TV, but I did a lot of stage shows. I did dinner theater in Texas. I worked at Disneyland for a long time, Walt Disney World in Florida. I did a bunch of their shows. And And then I got a show at Disneyland doing 5 shows a day, 5 days a week for 9 months.
that's a
And I
lot.
have to tell you, I thought I would die of boredom.
Yeah.
And I've been reading Barbara Streisand's autobiography. It's 900 pages, so you really have to like what she's about. And I do, and I'm very interested. And she talked about her first big break was doing a Broadway musical, I Can Get It For You Wholesale. And she said after a month, she was so bored she couldn't see straight. And I did
Gotcha.
Hello Dolly with Martha Ray, and the lead guy had been doing 8 shows a week of Hello Dolly for 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I started putting all this together and went, see, my background through school was you're rehearsing a play, you do it for 3 weekends, and then you're rehearsing another play and do that for 3 weekends. There wasn't a long run of 3 years. So doing the same thing over and over, that I just went, okay, this is not turning out the way I expected or wanted. What else is there? And I took secretarial jobs in between acting jobs to eat on. And this one secretarial job, after I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and the president came by and said, "You fit in really great. We want you to go full-time permanent." I said, "I can't do that. I'm an actress. I have to go on auditions in the middle of the day." And he said, "Okay, you can go." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we'll pay you by the hour for the hours you work. And when you need to go on an audition, no problem." I said, "Oh, you got me." Well, the catch was 5 months later, their office manager quit and they promoted me into that position. Now, I said, "I don't really know anything about bookkeeping or finance." And they said, "That's okay. We'll teach you." And I went, "Okay." Because when I'm about to take a risk, I consider the downside. If it's not death, I do it. And so I
I love
stepped
that.
into this job and found I loved it. I was the office manager. I was in charge of all the personnel. I was in charge of their budget. And then I started seeing things that we're doing that just didn't make sense. I said, "Why are you paying for this? You shouldn't do that. Do this over here instead for free. You're going to open up a branch office? Great. Centralize the bookkeeping up here. You don't have to hire another me down there." And so I just kept figuring it out. And I started saying, "No, I can't go on the audition. Thank you. No, I have a meeting. No, I have to get payroll out." And I realized I had made a choice. And I wrote my agent a letter and said, "Thank you so much for all your past services. And I'm now done." And I
Wow.
know it was the right thing because I never, ever went back. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I was hired to run a small bookkeeping service, it was 2 people and me. And I said, "Well, this isn't going anywhere unless I grow this thing." So I started networking and getting more clients in the door. And then they came to me after the first year. I'd hired 4 more people. And they came to me and said, "You act like an owner. We think you should be one. So here's 20% of the business." I had never thought about being a business owner, but if you look at it, being an actor is sort of being a business owner. For me, back in the day, we're looking at the 60s and 70s when I went to high school and college in the 60s, and now I'm a young woman going to work. There was no picture for a business owner for a woman.
Mm,
Okay.
interesting.
The television news programs were all men, delivered by men, about men. The newspaper had a woman's page that was weddings and fashion.
Oh,
Really?
helpful when you want to
Yeah.
be a business owner.
Well, actor was the only thing I could think of where you had autonomy, that you
Oh,
weren't
that's
just
interesting.
a cog in a wheel.
Right. You don't know anything outside of what you know at that point.
Yeah. So now I'm working a 9 to 5 job, but now I'm a business owner. And well, if I grow this business, this profit is going to be bigger. And then I bought my partners out. I had 13 employees, and things were going great. And then the biggest client we had left, and it was in trauma financially, but I kind of knew what to do about that. So I did what I could, rebuilt it, but smaller. And then we had a recession, and a lot of people came to me and said, "You saved your business. How did you do it? I'm in trouble." And I started giving advice. And 3 people in the same week said, "You should teach this."
Huh.
Okay. So I've been to some classes and I know I can get up in front of people and talk. That's not going to be a problem. So what would I tell them? And I had been taking notes all along. Now, go backwards for a minute. In the 70s, when I got divorced from my first marriage to an actor, And my sister handed me a book called There Is a River, the biography of Edgar Cayce, who was known as the sleeping psychic. And he did medical intuitive readings for like 20 years. And then somebody, while he was in a sleep trance, asked him about life and God. And he came up with reincarnation. And he was a Bible Belt Christian. So that totally floored him. But he went back through the Bible and said, well, there's nothing that says that's not true. And in some passages indicate that that might be true. So he went with it, and he's the most well-documented psychic ever. There's 30,000 readings at the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So I became a member with that and studied that and went into the Seth material and, all kinds of things.
It's pretty fascinating.
The spiritual thing had always been large in my life. I went to church and Sunday school every day growing up. First Methodist Church of Whittier. And I went to visit, I was walking home from school with some of my classmates, and they said, well, we have to stop at the church. They were Catholic and they had to do confession. I said, well, can I come in? And they said, sure. So I got to see they made the sign of the cross and we didn't do that. And so it was all very interesting. And afterwards I said, so you can come to my church too. It's a big church uptown Whittier and you'll like it. And they said, oh, no, we can't come to your church. And I said, why not? And Susie said, only Catholics are children of God.
Oh.
I went crying home to my mother. Susie says only Catholics are children of God. And she goes, no, no, dear, live a good life, go to heaven. Okay. But I had to think. Now, understand my father was an aerospace scientist, and his favorite reading material was science fiction. Mm. So I'm getting spiritual and I'm getting possibility and science. And how do you make possibility real? So all of these forces are at work in my mind and my soul. So I investigate every religion there's out there. I go to everything. I talk to everybody. The Jehovah's Witness knock on the door, come in. They were so happy. Nobody says, come in. Okay. So, and then people just didn't have answers that made sense to me. And I finally came to, this is my religious belief, okay? I believe in a God who sends many messengers. So Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, Paramahansa Yogananda, you name him. Krishnamurti.
Chellie.
Yes, you, Christina, we're all messengers. And we're all focusing on our lives and our reality in this world and possibly before and possibly later and putting it all together. And I just don't believe in a God who condemns people. I just don't. I gave when my first book came out, The Wealthy Spirit, I was doing a book signing, and this guy, I'm sitting going to sign books with people, and something else was going on, and this guy starts pacing in front of the table. I was a little worried about him. And he goes, so I have a question. I said, okay, what? He said, are you a Christian? And I said, yes. And he said, and what? I said, and Jewish and Buddhist and Muslim and everything. He just looked at me and said, I've never heard that question answered like that before. I said, well, good. Happy to deliver this message.
And that was it. Yeah.
All of this has to be a part of what I teach. If you ever listen to accountants give a lecture, I mean, when I first started networking, I would go to meetings and they'd say, what do you do? Oh, I do accounts receivable and I prepare financial statements, income.
Exciting stuff.
And budgets. And people were like,
right? Coming from that financial coaching world, I believe me, I understand.
Yeah, right.
As a bone.
As an actor, I knew when I was losing my audience, and I said, oh, okay. So I took a class, a marketing class. He says, you got to be interesting from the get-go. So I came up with calling it financial stress reduction. And
And it
I'll
is.
night and day. Oh, I'm a bookkeeper. I own a bookkeeping service. Or I do financial stress reduction. People would lean in, they'd smile, they'd
Hmm.
go, oh, how do you do that? Do you give me money? So it
Yeah.
opens the conversation.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's
I
amazing
do.
how that ties in all of it, right? So here you've
Yeah.
got the bookkeeping side and then taking all the experiences. What's amazing to me as you were speaking about all of it is how you never once resisted when different opportunities came your way by saying, no, that's not me, or that's not, it blocked you maybe from the acting world, right? You didn't just stop everything and say, well, that doesn't fit. You allowed it to see how it would fit into your life,
Yes.
right? And so you were able to have all of these experiences from the religion to the spirituality to the bookkeeping to acting because you allowed those experiences to happen without cutting it off.
Yes. I think you can either respond to things from fear or faith. And fear is just faith that bad things are going to happen. Why would you want to have faith in that? So I
Right.
just choose to have faith in good things and I'm willing to try stuff. If I don't like it, I can get out of it. I can go back to acting if I want. I never chose to. See, this is what happened as when everybody came and said, how do you do this? And I started teaching the financial stress reduction workshop. I put in spiritual values in there, being a good person, being thankful and grateful. And you get to build a business by doing service, providing service for people that they need and they want, and they're happy to pay you to get it. I mean, if you get your hair done and you like it, aren't you just thrilled with the person and happy to pay them? Of
I
course.
still, to this day, write on my checks because of you. I still write thanks
Me
with big,
too.
huge exclamation points. Every time I pay my utility bill, even as
Mhm.
crazy as it was this summer, I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you for providing this service to me. And oh wow, how great is it that I can afford to pay this?
Exactly.
Right? It's definitely
Exactly.
a different way to go into it and be grateful than to be like, I have to pay this.
I
Like you
know
said, aren't
people
you
are so
happy you have
resentful.
that haircut? Aren't you happy that you have your lights on?
Yeah. My dad did that to me. I was talking about magic at one point, and my dad said, I'll show you magic. And he went over and turned out the light and turned it back on. Goes, that's magic.
That's magic. It is. It is magic. I mean,
Oh,
can you
well,
imagine the
200
first
years
time?
ago, that's what they would have said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. We're talking about this mindset thing, which is interesting. It's so fascinating to me because
Yeah.
I live and breathe it as well. But you have a story, and to me, I know it's going to be maybe a random story. It's kind of a frightening story, but you have a story to me that hit me when I think that people can identify with when they don't even realize their habits and the things that they're thinking about and watching and doing and they don't realize how much it's affecting them. Can you tell the story when you had a break in with the knife, the guy with the knife?
Oh, the guy with the knife. Yeah. Ooh. That was scary. I had done a bad thing. I forgot the three rules of real estate: location, location, location. And I bought this beautiful little condo in a terrible neighborhood. My mother called me up one night and said, I just saw your street advertised on the news as having the most drug bust in any night in one night. And I went, oh no, I have this little corner condo. But yeah, we had been robbed at one point of some jewelry where we got a burglar alarm, but it was broken on the back door. My roommate was out of town, and all of a sudden the door opens to my bedroom, and in the hall light, I see the profile of this guy. And you don't know what you'll do in that situation. I just started screaming. And he ran over and grabbed me, and I kicked him, and I'm fighting. And he ran down the stairs. And I thought, the burglar alarm is still on. I got to get to the window and maybe that will drive him away. And so I got to the window, I opened it, the alarm started blaring, and then I didn't have another plan in my head. I just stood there for a long time and I said, well, I hope he's gone. And then I started creeping down the stairs and there was a kitchen knife on the stairs. He had gone down into the kitchen and got this knife. So I was saved, and the people next door had called the police when they heard me screaming. So the police were there like in a minute as soon as I got downstairs. And I said, what do I do to prevent this? They said, move. So I did.
Move. And then I thought was to me, so when you started to kind of reflect on your life and what you were like the TV shows and the things you were watching, I'll let you share it. But
Yes.
to me, that's when it hit me like here, you had stopped it unknowingly. Like, thankfully, in that moment, you thought to open that window
Yeah,
because he was coming up with that knife.
that's right.
Right. And then you go ahead and story. I'm
Well,
just
what
getting
I
excited.
what I had to reflect on, I was very fortunate. I called up my business partner who lived far away and had a big house, and I said, I need to come over. I was just robbed at gunpoint. And he says, or knife point. And he said, come on over. So I went over there and I stayed. And we already had he had a yacht, and we were going out on the yacht for 4 days with 6 of his friends. So one of his friends was a psychotherapist. And he just did psychotherapy on me all weekend so I could get past the terror and back into, well, I survived and isn't that good? So doing things right. And so then I said, how did I create this kind of thing in my life? And a lot of people are creating trauma in their life because they're watching serial killer movies on TV or they're reading, Stephen King novels. Oh, I like them once in a while, but mostly I don't watch any of that stuff anymore. It doesn't interest me. I want to watch something like Wicked. It's
Oh, I
coming out
can't wait. I'm
tomorrow.
going to go this weekend. I'm so
Yes, me
excited.
too.
But it is amazing though. You don't realize how much some of that affects you and consumes you. And it's in your head because I used to love that as well. I used to love like the, CSIs and all of that. And
Mhm.
then, you know, sometimes and it's a fine once in a while. I mean, we still like, my husband and I enjoy, action, crazy movies and whatever.
Like spy movies,
Yeah, here and there. But then
intrigue.
sometimes I'll get a dream and I'll be like, yeah, we've probably been watching a little too many because you don't realize, like, you start to get fearful of, like, well,
Yeah,
gosh, well, what if somebody breaks in here and then this, and you're literally bringing all
yeah,
of that to you.
yes. And they've done studies on this that when you imagine being fearful and you're scared in the movie, your brain secretes the same chemicals into your body as though it were really happening. Same
Exactly.
exact interior responses. That has to be affecting your life,
Right. And then,
right?
like from everything you teach, the opposite is true as well. Right. So if you're imagining yourself and living in all that's possible for you instead,
Yes.
what's going to happen
Like
now?
it doesn't, this, particularly with this last election, which I was very disappointed. I wanted Kamala, I wanted those Democratic policies. And you know what? It's Trump is going to be our president, and there are different kinds of policies, and people are getting all fearful and everything. And you know what? We just have to settle and we just have to say, I am going to pay attention to what I need to pay attention to. And I'm going to say, we all have to come together as a wonderful unit. And this is going to bring out some things that don't work, and we're going to see that don't work, and then we'll do better. So the only thing that brings us together is love. And
Yeah,
I don't mean just, oh, I'm going to be so spiritual. I'm not that kind of a woo-woo person, but I know that what you focus on is what you create. What you think
absolutely.
about, you bring about. If I'm focusing on fear and negativity, I'm going to get robbed at gunpoint. If I focus on love and flowers, I'm going to meet wonderful people and have a lovely lunch. It's just,
Right.
you have
There
to
is such
focus
a
on.
reality to that. I mean, and it just hit me, years ago, I had never seen the tie between, is something I had been fascinated with as well. And I never saw the tie between all of that and money
Yeah.
until I met you.
Ah.
And I thought that was just the coolest. And I, sitting in the other room, I had brought out my Wealthy Spirit book to show everybody because it is by far my favorite
I
because it's
have
a
it. I have
oh
it.
good, 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 good. It is so amazing.
And it's a page a day for every day of the year.
I mean, that's what's so cool about it is it's one page. There's just the most phenomenal stories and a lesson on every single day. So for people who like to scroll, I mean, this is like scroll through Chelly's book because it can only help you. It is really, really that good. And that's how I ended up meeting you after reading your book. And
Yeah.
then, and I mean, it was kismet after that. But speaking of that book, and also you have a book that is from Worry to Wealthy.
Yes.
If you were to give just one piece of advice for somebody who's in the worry of their life and they want to become wealthy, is there one piece of advice you'd start with?
You really have to prepare your mind and your spirit to be wealthy and to think of yourself as wealthy right now. And the way you do that is I woke up to morning. I live where there's light. I have a cell phone. I have a computer. I have a magic wand.
I love
Okay,
your magic wand.
I do too. I have a whole bunch of magic wands. Let me show you.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
People started giving to me in class. A woman sent me a magic wand, and so I started using it. And other people started sending me magic wands because they felt like what I was teaching them was magic. And it
Feels
isn't
like it.
magic. I turn on the light in you so you can turn on your own magic.
Oh, I love
It
that.
feels like magic when you stop worrying about money and you start saying, how can I spend my money today? What would I like to create? Let me make a list of the things I want and what they cost. And I'm not going to buy them today. I always tell people to go shopping, not buying. Shopping, like go shopping, identify some things, print pictures out. If you still get catalogs, which I do, I dog ear them. Oh, I go, that's great, that's great. And then I have to wait a week. And then usually I can't remember what I was so excited about. That's
Hmm.
control over your budget. If I can remember what it was, I can make a new dispassionate decision, not in the see it, want it, get it, follow the bright, shiny object, but also to have a budget written so that you know what you have right now, and then a budget for your future. What is it you're planning? Like you talked about. What's the life I want to have and write it out? Do a numerical diagram of it. How much money is it?
And it's so much fun. I mean,
Yeah,
it's that's even kind of like a little bit of a shopping experience where you feel great about it, but then it doesn't affect your real budget, right?
that's
It's
right.
that same feeling of like, wow, you get that feeling, that high of like, oh, this was so fun. But
Yeah.
you living in your current real budget at the moment. And I love
Yes.
that.
But then you look at, okay, how do I create the high budget? What do I have to do? Do I need to raise my prices? Do I need to get a better job? Do I need to ask for a raise and bonus? Because most people, especially women, this is why I wrote the woman's book, From Worry to Wealthy, A Woman's Guide to Financial Success Without the Stress. I wrote that because so many women never ask. And there's a wonderful
True.
book I read called Women Don't Ask. Men are 8 times more likely to negotiate their starting salary.
Wow.
Over the next 30 years, that's going to cost them $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
I
what
know
they,
it's funny when people bring up the glass ceiling and I'm like, you know where the glass ceiling is?
that's
Right
right.
there.
That one.
There is no glass ceiling. It is all constructed. And I know people don't feel like that. And it's sometimes it's very contentious, but it's been proven time and time again, just like you're saying, it is all in your head. We don't do the same things.
This is not to say there aren't real world barriers. There
True.
are real world barriers to women.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. If you're a white male, you got this patriarchy, darling. You're the top of the heap. and people of color are lesser, and women, all women throughout history. I'm reading a wonderful book called Who Cooked the Last Supper? And it's about the history of religious patriarchy. All the religions, the big three world religions, have a leader that was a male. And from a society in which women were the housekeepers and the child raisers. That's it.
Right. And it's just a historical fact, and it's historical data that's
Yes,
just the way it is at
and
the moment. But
it
it
is.
doesn't mean it can't change.
No, and it can change for you. You don't
Hmm.
have to have the whole world change for you to get ahead. You can
Right.
just say, well, okay, that's how it is, but I'm going to do it differently. That's
Right.
one of the reasons I picked actress, right? Not they're not going to hire a man to do the woman's role. They used to back in Shakespeare's day, but not now. So I knew I was going to be free within that construct. So I just carried that forward. When I was in finance, I could be the office manager and be a woman. I could own a bookkeeping service and be a woman. I could teach financial stress reduction workshops and be a business coach and money coach and be a woman. And there's lots of women coaches now.
Yeah, there really
And I
are.
knew I was going to have to raise my rates and raise my prices and not try and be all things to all people and let people, well, can you afford $2? No, I can't live on my budget. I can't live the way I want to on $2. So
Well, and that's a great lead in, actually. Can you just tell people, how, if they want to be a part of your financial reduction, a
financial
financial
stress
stress
reduction.
reduction? I'm like, no, we don't want financial reduction.
No,
That's
no.
terrible. Financial stress reduction workshop,
There you go.
or your wealth coaching. How do they get a hold of you? What would be the best way to find you?
The easy thing is Chellie, CHELLIE.com. That's my website. It's just my first name.
And I bet
And
you have a
my,
discount code for some of these people too.
I do. So the number one thing I've always done for 35 years is teach the 8-week financial stress reduction workshop. But when COVID hit and I saw opportunities online and to do videos, I now have the Wealthy Spirit group on Facebook, and it's a paid coaching group. It's $47 a month. So it's about $500 a year. But I do a 10-minute video every day from the pages. Plus, this book came out in 2002. So I've had lots of more experiences. So I tell additional stories. I tell the background, how this happened, how I can make it personal for you, how you can do the same kind of thing where you sit. So I have over 100 people in the group, and it's really fun. And I do the videos at 9 o'clock, but you can watch them anytime. Now, to get it, to try it out for just $7, you use this discount code, which is Dolphin Gold. All one word, all lowercase, Dolphin Gold, because I have this thing about dolphins. There's three kinds of people in life: sharks, dolphins, and tuna. And dolphins are friendly fish, and they're smiling and wonderful and friendly and swim in schools and look beautiful. And sharks are eating machines, and tuna are the food for the sharks. So I always say I'm a tuna in recovery, and now proud to play with the dolphins and swim and be happy.
I love your dolphins. You have a great dolphin pod. You
Thank you, I
really do.
do.
And I encourage everybody to just go check Chellie out at CHELLIE.com. She's just incredible. It really, to be a part of your group, to get your knowledge, to all of that. I mean, for $47 a month is crazy,
Mhm.
because your reduction workshop is, the stress reduction workshop is a lot more, and it is intensive. And I also recommend that too for those who can do that.
Yes.
But I want to thank you so much for being here. You are a wealth of information.
Thank
You
you.
are so much fun to be around. And
It's
I'm just,
wonderful to talk to you. You are awesome. I'm so happy to know you, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you today and for all your people. I wish you just the most joy and happiness and wonderful wealth and all your wishes coming true.
Oh, thank you, Chellie. I do the same for you. You are just a joy. I just appreciate you so much. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening today. If you'd like any more information on how you can use these tips in your ultimate 180 experience, then hop on over to my website, ultimate180.com, and see what's ultimately possible for you. You can catch all my episodes there. You can also catch them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your shows.